Anyway, I left that horrible job, and then I was doing all sorts of random shit to stay afloat, coaching a lot of improv, picking up random freelance
Right. So
stuff
how do you
there.
land into a writer room or whatever?
That came about through I had gotten a manager right out of college because they have an exit program at USC where you can like you speed date with a bunch of like producers and
that's
managers
cool.
and stuff. It was cool. And so I signed with some people that didn't totally work out. But the way it's basically, it comes from how I ended up getting representation, which if anyone's interested in this, God bless you. But,
That's what this podcast is about.
Sure.
My small niche.
Sure. But so the way I had those managers, but was just kind of sending out packets and nothing was really happening. And then I started a YouTube sketch group called The Last Spaceman. Check it out. With a lot of really funny dudes, both a mix of dudes from USC and people that I knew elsewhere. Not just dudes. But we had a lot of, it was a really fun group and we made some really cool sketches. And we made a short little sketch that was a parody of those depression medication ads where it's just like me walking in Griffith Park being like, do you suffer from depression? Do you find yourself like overwhelmed by blah, blah, asking, do you? And then the music kind of cuts out and I stop and I go, what, so you're just a little baby? You're just like a little baby boy just crying all the time? It's just like the stupidest like one-shot sketch. But it turned out pretty funny. And then it got retweeted by Shelby Farrow.
Oh, sure.
Who was also on Second Nature for the 1 year she was at USC before she dropped out.
Okay.
So I knew her through that. So she retweeted our sketch, and her lawyers saw it. Her lawyer, Grace Callis, who is Sean Clements's wife, saw my 1 minute sketch. And they were like, who's this? We like this guy. Who's this guy? And so I met with them. And
with a law firm?
With a law firm. They're like entertainment lawyers who kind of fancy themselves sort of like pseudo managers too. And they're great. And they're still my lawyers now.
Okay.
And they kind of encouraged me to ditch my managers that weren't really working. And they introduced me to my current manager, Stephen Fisher, who's the best. And he's really the guy who kind of helped me get in a ton of doors.
That's awesome.
And so he...
all from this silly little sketch.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's what launched it all. And then I was able to meet him and he liked me and we kind of clicked and got into it. And then I was still doing the thing of like submitting packets, but he was just better at doing that for me.
Of course,
I feel like, and also I was getting better at that point. And so Billy on the Street came about just from the year before I got the job. I had submitted a packet for them and they liked my packet. And I actually did a Skype interview for the job with Billy Eichner I just did that in the most Hollywood handbook way of Billy Eichner, and but did a Skype interview with him, and he liked my stuff. But then they only ended up hiring me as like a freelance contributor that year. So I wrote like one email with 15 jokes in it, and that was it. I got like $200 and was like, great, thanks. But then he remembered me, and Billy came out to LA and wanted to have a little round table at Funny or Die. While he was in LA, to meet with some of the other people who had worked for Billy on the Street while he was in LA, to like get pitches for like an afternoon. And so they thought of me for that. So they had me in that round table, and I did a good job in that round table. And then they asked me to come out to New York for 5 weeks.
You did move to New York.
Yeah. So I went to New York for 5 weeks and lived there I lived there for like a month and wrote for his 5th season, I think it was.
Is that the dream, to get paid to move to New York?
Yeah. Well, I didn't even fully move because it was only 5 weeks.
Right.
And
extended Airbnb.
And my dad had just moved there, so he was in an apartment on the Upper West Side. So I just stayed on his couch for 5 weeks. So I wasn't even paying.
It's not the dream at all.
No, it was great though. I loved it.
I mean, it's a different kind of dream.
It was a dream for me because I wasn't spending $2,000 on like a room somewhere, because they wouldn't have helped me out with that. And so that wasn't even technically, I was like a consultant, because it wasn't technically like a writing.
And it's not union,
job.
right?
Yeah. At that point it was not union. So I got that job just through doing well in that writer. And then I did that for 5 weeks, and that was awesome. That was like a great group of people, of And cool people have gone on to do such amazing things.
Seems like 5 weeks would be a nice like crash course.
It was really
nice
good
introduction to
and
how-
it was just such a cool workflow in terms of like it was very late nighty of you walk in with kind of like a packet of assignments of different things you need to do that day. You know, we need 10 jokes about this, we need questions for this game, we need ideas for this obstacle course, and you just kind of work on that all day. And then from like 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Billy would come in and you'd meet with him and kind of talk about bigger picture stuff and pitch stuff to him.
That's fantastic.
And he was great and a wonderful boss. And, you know, I see him every once in a great while, and he's still just the best. He's an all timer for me. I think he's so funny.
So does one thing like that really open it up? Does your manager, is your manager like, all right, we got the keys to the car now, Devin, let's do it.
It does. It helps. It's just you're able to point to one thing. And, you know, what they used to tell us at USC was no one in Hollywood wants to be the first to like something.
Right.
So as soon as someone else is like, he's okay, you're like, okay, you know, that's kind of all it takes.